Coming up on Valley View News, in honor of Cesar Chavez Day, farm workers protested for more union voting rights. Plus, a small business works to help the people of Afghanistan. And the 64th Annual Grammy Awards returned with some normalcy.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Elizabeth Campos.
And I'm Ruby Cordova in the Digital Media Center.
A Sacramento shooting left 6 people dead and 12 injured. Police say it happened in downtown Sacramento early Sunday morning as popular bars were closing. Sacramento Police Chief Kathy Lester says she has never seen violence at this scale during her 27 years with the police department. To get local perspectives, Valley View News spoke with CSUN students about their thoughts on gun control policies.
It's heartbreaking, honestly.
Good Samaritan nearby that had a gun on them. That could have been maybe only 5 shots if they were taken down by someone good who had a gun on them. You know, if we have just as many good people who are concealed carrying.
I don't think that anyone can just go and buy a gun. There should be way more laws and regulations.
Sacramento police have arrested one suspect so far, 26-year-old Andre Martin. Sacramento PD charged Martin with assault with a deadly weapon and being a convict carrying a loaded gun.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky pre-recorded a video message for the Grammys. He asked for support with telling the story of Russia's brutal invasion of Ukraine.
On our land, we are fighting Russia, which brings horrible silence with its bombs, the dead silence. Feel the silence with your music. Feel it today to tell our story. Tell the truth about the war on your social networks, on TV. Support us in any way you can, but not silence.
President Zelensky's message served as an intro to John Legend performing his song Free, alongside Ukrainian musicians and a poet.
The city of Los Angeles reached a settlement to address homelessness. It'll provide $3 billion over the next 5 years to develop as many as 16,000 beds or housing units for the homeless. The agreement stipulates that the city finds shelter for thousands of people camping on sidewalks or near freeways. The LA Alliance for Human Rights filed a suit which led to the settlement. Some small business owners, residents, unhoused people, and formerly unhoused supported the suit.
People throughout California rallied on Cesar Chavez Day demanding that Governor Gavin Newsom sign the pro-union voting rights bill. Our reporter Natalie Sierra went to the Los Angeles protest.
The late Cesar Chavez's fight for farm workers' rights still continues. For Cesar Chavez Day, Irv Hirschenbaum, the first vice president of the Farm Workers Union, organized a demonstration urging Governor Gavin Newsom to sign Assembly Bill 2183. The measure supports voting rights for farm workers so they can vote at home.
We're trying to ask Governor Newsom to sign a bill that would make it easier for farm workers to express their opinion on whether they want a union, modernizing the voting procedure.
Business groups say the bill could leave farm workers vulnerable to union pressure. The Chamber of Commerce calls it a job killer, but supporters say the bill is needed to keep employers from using scare tactics against farm workers who want to vote for unions. Farm worker Flor Alvarado says she wants her rights.
We want Newsom to give us a vote so we can vote in union and vote freely in our homes without supervisors or foremen.
City Council member and Los Angeles mayoral candidate Kevin De Leon joined in solidarity with the farm workers.
These are the women and men who put the food on the table for each and every one of you, and they deserve to have respect and dignity.
Hirschenbaum says that if the bill isn't signed, they plan to march again in the summer. Reporting from Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Natalie Sierra.
While LA farm workers want to change the way they can vote for unions, in New York, Amazon workers already voted to unionize. This is the first successful U.S. union to form inside Amazon's operations. 55% of warehouse workers voted in favor of the union. Vice President of Membership Connor Spence spoke of priorities.
Number one on the list is going to be higher pay. The cost of living in New York is way too high. Amazon does not pay a living wage, so that's going to be the first thing that we fight for.
Amazon and the Amazon Labor Union challenged the vote but weren't successful. The results won't be official until they're processed by both parties. Any objections are due by April 8th.
The price of self-serve regular gasoline dropped in Los Angeles. The AAA and Oil Price Information Service says the average price is now $5.99. After a 32-day streak of increases, the price dropped 7.1 cents in the past 7 days. This is the largest decrease in gas prices since April 2020.
Alaska Airlines now has new gender-neutral uniforms for flight attendants. The new uniform policy follows a 2021 complaint by an Alaska Airlines employee. The worker claimed the old uniform policy discriminated against non-binary employees who didn't fit male or female dress codes. The American Civil Liberties Union notified Alaska Airlines that their prior dress code violated Washington's law against gender discrimination. The airline says its new dress code offers more freedom and flexibility for gender expression. Changes also permit personal pronoun pins for employees to wear on their uniforms.
The Navy commissioned a new Virginia-class submarine Saturday. First Lady Jill Biden is one of the sponsors for the USS Delaware.
It's difficult to put into words how much it means to be a part of the USS Delaware family. It's an incredible honor that I take seriously.
Sponsors are named by the Secretary of the Navy and are part of commissioning, decommissioning, and christening. Because of COVID-19, the Delaware was commissioned administratively at sea last year.
A man and a woman were struck by lightning at an MLB spring training game in Tampa, Florida. The lightning hit them in the parking lot of the Raymond James Stadium. The man is in his 60s, the woman in her 20s. Both were hospitalized and are in stable condition. They were attending the New York Yankees versus Atlanta Brave games when the strike occurred around 3:45 p.m.
The House of U.S. Representatives voted 220 to 204 to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. If eventually passed by the Senate, the bill would remove criminal penalties for cannabis-related offenses. Amendments to the bill approved $10 million for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to study technologies that will indicate whether a driver is impaired by marijuana. Some of the money also goes towards additional law enforcement needs.
In San Bernardino County, the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center reported 0 COVID patients for the first time since March 2020. On its Facebook page, the county highlighted the personal sacrifices made by caretakers and hospital staff during the pandemic. It mentioned what it called their resilience and unwavering care for the community. Meanwhile, COVID-19 hospitalizations in LA County also dropped to their lowest point since the start of the pandemic.
The new BA.2 COVID-19 variant is now the most dominant strain in the United States. Los Angeles County officials say it accounts for 1/3 of all virus cases screened for variants. Indicators show a downward trend or leveling off in COVID-19 cases, while Omicron variant cases doubled since March 5th. LA County's Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer says there won't be an immediate rise in cases and hospitalizations, but now is a good time to get another booster.
As summer approaches, many farmers markets will be selling their produce again. Our reporter Brenna White reports on one farmers market that has made it through pandemic shutdowns.
Now that California is easing up COVID-19 restrictions, places like the Riverside County Certified Farmers Market are opening. There are plenty of vendors selling goods here. However, some of these small businesses weren't affected by the pandemic. Marilena Arriaga of Arriaga Flowers says during the pandemic, her family farm actually benefited from customers who didn't want to be around crowds of people.
That's when our Instagram picked up, actually. So like a lot of people were doing orders through there and they were just picking it up type of thing.
The pandemic forced many farmers markets to close, but they were back open within weeks. Still, those shutdowns meant these vendors lacked in-person customers. Microgreen farmer Abdurdahimi Amin says the best part of the farmers market is coming out and talking directly to people.
Prior to this, I was just dealing with the online aspect, the digital aspect. So you don't have that face-to-face with people.
The farmers market is next to the County of Riverside executive offices. The location helps bring customers in throughout the day for vendors. County worker Jenna Perez likes the proximity to her job.
No, it's nice, much nicer to be able to come back down here for like breaks, get something to eat, and just walk around and interact with people.
The certified farmers market is open on Wednesdays from 8:30 in the morning until 1:30 in the afternoon. Reporting from Riverside for Valley View News, I'm Brenna White.
More to come on Valley View News, how Shanghai is dealing with its new COVID-19 outbreak, and how a freelance florist is helping out her father's nonprofit in Afghanistan.
Coming up on Valley View News, grocery workers are negotiating a new contract and are ready to strike. Plus, CSUN's volleyball team talks about mental health in their sport, and electric vehicles on display at CSUN.
Hello and welcome to Valley View News. I'm Elizabeth Campos.
And I'm Ruby Cordova in the Digital Media Center.
Ketanji Brown Jackson was confirmed to the Supreme Court last week. Several Republican senators, including Texas Senator Ted Cruz, walked out of the chamber during Jackson's standing ovation. However, Republican Mitt Romney stayed to applaud for her. He was one of the only 3 Republican senators to vote for her. We spoke to CSUN students about the first African-American woman to sit on the Supreme Court.
If you have a lot of diversity in a group like that, it provides you with more perspectives.
It's happy just to have like a black woman representing the black community.
Obviously it's something to celebrate, but it's also something that shouldn't be out of the ordinary. It should become more normal.
The Senate vote confirming Jackson was 53-47.
A federal appeals court upheld President Joe Biden's COVID-19 vaccine mandate for all federal employees. The judges voted 2-1, dismissing a challenge to the mandate. In September, Biden issued his executive order requiring all executive branch employees to be vaccinated. Those challenging the mandate pointed to a recent Supreme Court opinion. The opinion ruled that the government can't force private employers to get vaccinated.
Thousands gathered outside Los Angeles City Hall protesting vaccine mandates. City officials said the mandate slowed the spread of COVID-19 after cases started to rise again in California. The crowd included truckers and firefighters from across the country. Big rig drivers protesting included some from the so-called People's Convoy. LA County requires firefighters, police, and sheriff deputies to be fully vaccinated. As of last month, about 24 employees have been fired. This includes 12 fire department workers and several police officers.
21 states reported increases in COVID cases, but White House Chief Medical Advisor Dr. Anthony Fauci says much of the country is still in the green safe zone. The uptick is partly a result of the annual Gridiron Club dinner in Washington, D.C. More than 70 attendees tested positive for COVID. President Joe Biden didn't attend, but he did have contact with government officials who were there and who tested positive. Dr. Fauci isn't worried about the president's health, saying that the protocols to protect the president are strong.
The president is vaccinated. He's doubly boosted. He got his 4th shot of an mRNA. When we, people like myself and my colleagues, are in the room with him closely for a considerable period of time, half an hour, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, all of us need to be tested.
Fauci still urges people who are eligible to get vaccinated to do so.
Members of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union across Central and Southern California are ready to strike for a better contract. Valley View News reporter Vanessa Garcia met with some local union workers at Local 770.
The United Food and Commercial Workers Local Union 770 in Los Angeles gathered to support its grocery workers who are prepared to strike against Vons, Ralph's, Pavilions, and Albertsons. 7 unions across Central and Southern California want a contract that includes higher wages, safer stores, and better staffing. Raymond Smith, a Ralph's employee, says with COVID-19, a big concern is workers' health and safety.
Working through the pandemic was not easy. While many other people got to work from home, we did not have that choice.
The unions say all of the targeted stores made $4 billion in profits last year. However, workers like Kathleen Scott, an Albertsons worker, says she wants a salary that reflects her hard work.
What we're asking for is $5 over 3 years, which is barely enough to keep up with inflation. We are basically asking that we don't make less money when we go to work next year.
The companies offered an annual 60-cent per hour increase. Pepe Paredes, a Ralph's employee and college student, says his wage isn't enough to pay for classes.
You know, bucks, they don't pay themselves. Gas don't pay itself. Dorming don't pay itself. So.
After constant negotiation, both the union and the companies have finally reached a tentative agreement covering wage increases, strong health benefits, and much more, now allowing grocery workers to step back and avoid going on strike outside their stores. Reporting from Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Vanessa Garcia.
A man died Sunday after being hit by 2 vehicles near Exposition Park. The driver of the first car hit him and fled. The driver of the second vehicle stayed. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. The crash is under investigation. Police have no descriptions of the first vehicle that hit the man.
Los Angeles City Council voted Wednesday to resume ticketing RVs parked on city streets as a dwelling place. 2 years ago, the city suspended ticketing illegally parked RVs. At the time, LA received overwhelming support for the suspension. Now, the deadline to remove permanently parked RVs is May 15th. The city says RVs that don't run or aren't registered may be towed.
The Cedar Rapids Police Department is investigating a shooting that killed 2 people and injured 10. It happened at the Taboo nightclub and lounge. Police Chief Wayne German says 2 men fired more than a dozen shots inside the nightclub.
This is another mindless and senseless gun-related incident involving a reckless disregard for human life.
The shooting occurred just before 1:30 a.m. The gunman escaped with a crowd of people rushing to get out of the nightclub.
A federal jury acquitted 2 of 4 men accused of plotting to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. One of the other 2 defendants' attorneys says the mistrial shows a presumption of innocence continuing for his client, Adam Fox.
I think that the trial here has demonstrated that there's some serious shortcomings in the case. Obviously, with acquittals occurring with Mr. Caserta and Mr. Harris, says a lot about what's going on in the case.
The jury didn't reach a verdict for Fox and Barry Croft due to U.S. District Judge Robert Jonker declaring a mistrial for them. In a statement, Whitmer's chief of staff says the governor remains focused on her work, but emphasized there must be accountability and consequences for those who commit heinous crimes.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott's office is preparing about 900 buses to transport undocumented immigrants to Washington, D.C.
to help local officials whose communities are being overwhelmed by hordes of illegal immigrants who are being dropped off by the Biden administration. Texas is providing charter buses to send these illegal immigrants who have been dropped off by the Biden administration to Washington, D.C.
Abbott thinks undocumented immigrants should be closer to people in Washington, D.C., making policies allowing them to cross the border. The state said only immigrants who volunteer will be transported. White House spokesperson Jen Psaki called it all a publicity stunt.
A Texas woman is asking for clemency as her execution date approaches. Melissa Lucio was convicted of killing her 2-year-old daughter in 2007. Her lawyers say police coerced Lucio into confessing to the crime after a 5-hour interrogation. Texas Representative Victoria Niave Criado says the government executing Lucio is an irreversible injustice.
If the state executes her, despite all of the overwhelming evidence pointing to her innocence, her execution will be a stain on our state's morality.
Lucio's execution is set to take place April 27th. If she isn't pardoned, Lucio will be the first Latina to be executed in Texas.
President Biden nominated Admiral Linda L. Fagan to be the next U.S. Coast Guard Commandant. Fagan will be the first woman to lead military service branch. Fagan was also the first woman to be promoted to a 4-star rank in the Coast Guard. Senator Maria Cantwell, the chair of the Senate Commerce Committee, said Fagan's appointment will inspire generations of American women who want to serve at the highest level in the armed forces.
Black Lives Matter held its weekly rally outside of the Los Angeles Police Protective League office, protesting police brutality. Valley View News reporter Noe Ortega was there.
Every week, just across the street from the Los Angeles Police Protective League, members of Black Lives Matter Los Angeles protest police killings and alleged abuses.
As we think about these attacks, who's behind the attacks, why they're behind the attacks, and why they will fail.
The rallies are meant to give a voice to families whose loved ones were killed by police. Deanna Sullivan's son, David Sullivan, was shot and killed by the Buena Park police in 2019.
And all I keep thinking is like, what I could have done for him, what I could have given him, the experiences. I mean, I've always tried to have my kids have a lot of experience.
Sheriff Alex Villanueva said in a statement that other states that defunded their police department regretted it and that defunding the police will ultimately hurt public safety. With the beginning of Ramadan, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles member Hajjah Kenyatta Baker, who is Muslim, spoke of sacrifices made by people who fought for civil rights and justice. She poured water on a plant as she said their names.
Who are we lifting up? Marcus Garvey, absolutely, Ashe.
On the first Wednesday of Ramadan, Black Lives Matter Los Angeles rallied for those who have died from the hands of police officials and say they won't stop until the police department is completely defunded. Reporting from Los Angeles for Valley View News, I'm Noe Ortega.
More to come on Valley View News. An LA weekly night market unites lovers of food, music, and good times. And CSUN hosts an electric car show on campus.